First, we have to check out the heated press conference interaction from a few days ago. It was pretty fun to watch President Trump handle this hostile interview question in moment. And despite the media trying to spin this into a story about Trump attacking a poor, innocent, good-looking female reporter, but really, if you actually watch the tape, it was Weijia who was being mean and confrontational right from the beginning. And her question and responses are pretty terrible and baseless too, so let's go ahead and check out the video and see for ourselves.
Many Americans are saying the exact same thing about you, that you should have warned them the virus was spreading like wildfire through the month of February instead of holding rallies with thousands of people. Why did you wait so long to warn them?
Who are you with?
And why did you not have social distancing until March 16th?
Who are you with?
I'm Weijia Jiang with CBS News.
So...
Okay, first of all, she already has a very aggressive tone, far more confrontational and got you sounding than she really should be. I'm not sure what she thinks she's got on the president here either, but this question is not nearly as damning as she thinks it is. She's basically Monday morning quarterbacking this crisis, saying if Trump shut down the country a little bit sooner, it would have helped in some way, supposedly. Now, that might possibly be true, and it may sound obvious to some, but actually, it's really not that cut and dry. It's complicated. I mean, it's not like our current shutdown stopped the spread completely or anything, so who's to say closing up a few days or weeks sooner would have really changed that much, if anything at all. One could guess or assume it does, or think very strongly it would have helped, but there's also no proof that it actually would. And right now, some are saying the current shutdowns should be stopped or have never happened in the first place. And really, if you think back to mid-February, honestly, no one was thinking of shutting anything down way back then. Even the press and the Democrats were all distracted with something else, impeachment, and dealing with other anti-Trump nonsense. President Trump himself was really the first and earliest to act on this, as he should be, but now, wannabe important reporters like Weijia, they think hypothetical questions based on nothing, well, they deserve all this attention to them when they really don't. This isn't proper reporting at all either. Not only is Weijia purposely being rude, loud, and forward for no reason, but she's also asking questions that are emotional and not fact-based. And in addition, it's in poor taste as well. She's virtually implying the president got people killed for not acting sooner. And since this is a foreign invading virus, well, since that's the case, that means Trump had nothing to do with the virus and this health scare starting up in the U.S.
If you look at what I did in terms of cutting off or banning China from coming in.
Chinese nationals. But by the way, not Americans who are also coming from China.
Nice and easy. Just relax.
Yep, you cut off travel as early as possible. And ironically enough, had Trump acted sooner, that's a move that would have been criticized by these same biased reporters. You really can't win with terrible people like this. And then consider how the reporter who is explicitly identified as a female reporter in all stories about this story, and well, if you actually watch this video, she's clearly the aggressor. She's accusing Trump of getting people killed based on nothing, then she's talking too loud in a rude tone, and even she's cutting off the president as he tries to respond to her. But somehow the press wants to paint this as the president yelling at some poor and innocent female? Please, this is a vicious, angry, upset, grown-ass woman who's triggered by a president she doesn't like. And rather than remain professional and keep her personal feelings to herself, she's instead lashing out and striking at him, acting like some kind of jilted lover Trump wronged in the past or something. Seriously, this girl acts like the president ghosted her after a one-night stand. What, does Trump owe her alimony payments or something? Jeez, get a grip, lady. You're acting like a bitter divorcee.
We cut it off. People were amazed. These gentlemen, everybody was amazed that I did it. We were very early. Oh, I'm the president. And you know what I just did? And you know what I just...
And by the way, when you issued the ban, the virus was already here.
Okay, and you know how many people, when I issued the ban, how many cases of virus were in the United States when I issued the ban? Do you know the number? No, how many cases?
She doesn't know. Weijia Jiang has no clue what she's talking about. Love how this clip is being edited to try and make Trump look bad here, though. And it's still failing despite that attempt, because to most, it's obvious that the reporter was acting like a child. This is also a good example of the two movies thing we've talked about here before. We're currently in such a divided and strange time where so many liberals are riddled with such bad cases of Trump derangement syndrome, they really see the world in a totally different way than we do. So when we see something, or our movie, which shows Trump is right and this woman is a hack reporter who's acting terrible, well, that's what most sane, rational, level-headed people would see here, whether you like the president or not. But then there's the radical lefties who see everything Trump or Republicans do as evil, and they will happily look at this video and defend that reporter until the end of time. That's because the Trump derangement syndrome has caused their movie to look completely different to them. It's warped and corrupted by their bias, even though we are all in fact watching the same video.
Remember I said one person. How many cases were here when I issued the ban?
But did you know?
No, you have to do your research. How many?
I did my research. On the 23rd of March, you said you knew this was going to be a pandemic.
Can I tell you what? I did know it. I did know it. All I have to do is look.
So you knew
Anybody knew it. Just, are you ready? How many cases were in the United States when I did my ban?
She doesn't know anything about anything, apparently. That's why when the president asks her follow-up questions, she just bickers and says something else. She also has no point here because, again, there's no proof what she's suggesting would change anything. And again, it's rather hypocritical, her using this 2020 hindsight there. Now, had Weijia been asking about this at the time in question in the middle of February, perhaps we could look back at that footage and say, hey, maybe she was right back then. But this chick wasn't doing this back in February. No one was asking for lockdowns back then. In fact, most of the press was calling the president racist and xenophobic for shutting down the travel and other stuff he did at the time. But now, 2 months later, and Weijia here wants to pretend she was on board with shutdowns back then, even though she never said anything about it at the time. She thinks she can time travel or something, and it's absolutely insane.
How many people had died in the United States?
So do you acknowledge that you didn't think
Keep your voice down, please.
spread?
Keep your voice down.
Did you not?
How many cases were in the United States? I did a ban where I'm closing up the entire country. How many people died?
And that's a fair point.
How many people died in the United States? And yet I closed up the country, and I believe there were no deaths, 0 deaths.
Even she admits this is a good point here, because it is. And had Trump done anything earlier, he surely would have been criticized by this same reporter and her cohorts. And also, again, bickering about the past and what we could have and should have done, that's pretty petty and unproductive. I mean, this is a roundabout way of blaming Trump, right? If we were to really backtrack and try and stop this thing, though, why are we only going back to the point where the virus reaches America? I mean, I would take it all the way back to where this virus actually came from and say, hey, we should have shut down that middle kingdom and not let them lie to the world while they infected us with this disease, which they created and spread and made worse. Next, we're going to move on to the more recent story from this week involving Trump and this reporter. A new meme that's been going around in the mainstream media has this idea that Trump told people to inject themselves with disinfectant or something. This is obviously not true, and it's a dramatic and very unfair interpretation of something else the president said in a very different way. But regardless, the press is going with this fake news anyway, because it's almost like they're hoping someone will inject themselves so they can then blame that on Trump too, even though they're the ones that came up with this idea. For example, here's a video from CBS about this, where our new least favorite reporter, Weijia, tries to pin this lie on the president too. Check this one out.
President Trump is making some potentially dangerous new suggestions. At his latest briefing, he talked about possibly injecting disinfectant into people's bodies, though he later partially walked that back. The president also floated the idea of getting bright light like UV rays into the body after hearing it's bad for the virus. Now, this is not the first time he's pushed treatments without his medical team's endorsement. Weijia Jiang is at the White House for us.
I'm honestly surprised she still has a job, let alone should they let her keep reporting on the president at the White House. This kind of reminds me of Jim Acosta at CNN. Weijia is like the CBS version of him. Both of them are starkly anti-Trump reporters who have been assigned to question and report on him daily, which seems rather odd to me. Not saying they should get someone who's too friendly or familial with the president either. Just someone more neutral and less biased would be preferable and more respectable. These jokers they have here, Weijia and Jim Acosta, they're obviously going to lie and stretch and bend the truth just so they can attack a president they obviously don't like openly. Just like what they're doing with this whole bit about injecting disinfectants and using UV rays at home to fight the virus. This is fake news. It's a lie, and it's a new meme which all the press are spreading in conjunction, like they got their marching orders directly from the same place they get their talking points, the Democratic Party of America. Notice how this report is going to show very little of Trump actually saying anything too, let alone will he say or imply what they're saying he said, because the claim they're making is bogus. They're just pulling quotes out of context and making assumptions and implications on their own, in very bad faith too. That's why they have to talk and editorialize and sum up things on their own with their lies, rather than showing the president's quotes or actual video of him talking.
Weijia, good morning. At one point, the president said he's up there just trying to present ideas, but these ideas do not have the endorsement of medical experts. So where do they come from?
Good morning, Tony. President Trump indicated this came from his own head, and he said it would be a good idea to look at a possible treatment. But as you mentioned, stressed, he was just throwing it out there as a suggestion.
Yeah, but what was his actual suggestion? Because he certainly wasn't saying, hey, everyone should go to their homes and drink bleach and inject disinfectants on their own. No one said that or anything close to it. And well, actually, many reporters and leftists are trying to say this now because they want to pretend the president said it, and it's like they're almost hoping some idiot will eventually try it, so that then they can boost this story and blame the president once again for a scare and bad idea that the press actually caused. Weijia must be really bitter about that bad day she had with Trump in that press conference, because now, just a few days later, and she's throwing away all her integrity and credibility by making shit up about him. But hey, at least she's not ugly.
The president made these remarks after an official with the DHS Office of Science and Technology presented emerging results from a study that showed sunlight, heat, and humidity, along with disinfectants, degraded the virus on surfaces and in the air.
I'm just here to present talent. I'm here to present ideas.
President Trump called on Bill Bryan,
And that's the first little bit of Trump we actually get to see here. Him saying something pretty unrelated to these claims the reporters are making about him. Then they cut to some other guy before finally getting to what Trump really said later. And that's almost 2 minutes of the press at CBS lying and proposing conjecture, which is followed by a few seconds of the president actually saying something far different than they claimed, and something that's totally benign. So in the spirit of the hack CBS News team, let me go ahead and talk shit first and editorialize the president. Except what I'm going to do is be fair to him and give him the benefit of the doubt, and actually give you a proper explanation of what went down here. Basically, this other science guy talked at the press conference about how disinfectants and UV rays, like from the sun, well, they have been effectively killing this virus. This is what led to the president following up with some other related comments and ideas about it. He suggested maybe coming up with some treatments using these two ingredients, like say using UV rays to scan and clean people or something, or possibly maybe injecting some kind of disinfectant that could kill the virus in the right situation. Now, I know that might sound bad already, but that's only because our thoughts and views have been spun and corrupted by the biased mainstream media about this. But if you really think about it rationally, it can make sense and even sound good, or like something we should look into. First of all, the president clearly was not suggesting that people independently go out and inject themselves with Lysol at their homes. This is an obvious over-exaggeration and a purposely done misinterpretation of what he meant. Really, Trump is just saying that doctors and scientists working on stopping this illness, well, they might need to start considering testing some treatments that could involve these ingredients that kill the virus. How and in what way would it be applied is still unknown, and us making guesses on it is just speculation. But since the left made up their own bad faith speculations like drinking bleach, well, I guess I'll have to make some good faith ones that could possibly make sense and show you what we're talking about. For example, if someone, say, made a tanning booth-like machine that used UV rays to cover your body and kill the disease, well, that's something that could possibly work if you just think about it in some sort of futuristic sci-fi kind of way. Or for the disinfectant use, well, scientists could come up with some kind of safe ingestible pill with a small amount of it in there. Or you could get a shot or IV drip that has small but effective amounts of these ingredients from disinfectants that kill the virus, but they also won't kill you or hurt you in any way. I'm of course just guessing and speculating because I'm not a doctor or scientist, but I could see something like this happening considering the research. And even if these treatments did happen, no one would be suggesting people do so at home on their own without doctor recommendations and supervision. Anyone who does anything like this is just being dumb and terrible, and their resulting sickness or death would be tragic, but it would also be their own fault and not the president's. What do you guys think? Should we trust Weijia and CBS when they say stuff about the president? Why do you think she was so rude and terrible to him in that interview? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.